Lokati here. Today we're going to be doing another update video on our Pathfinder build. This of course is going to be our current status of everything. We have switched over to Evasion Energy Shield because I feel like it is a far superior defensive system to Armor Evasion on the Pathfinder. We are doing a level 80 map, which is a T16 non-irradiated with a boss. We have extra damage as cold, some iron guards, increased pack size. Nothing too squirrely as far as map mods go. Let's just go ahead and get in here. Gameplay is still the same. A spam gas arrow into everything and then collect loot. We did get our 4th ascendancy point, and there's not a lot of good choices. I played around with poison concoction a little bit, but it was really not good unless you absolutely dump all of your skills in it, which means the gas arrow then is not good. And Poison Concoction Clear is just absolute garbage, and I really don't like the Mana Flask charges necessary for it. So we're going to stick with Gas Arrow for now. As you can see, it pretty much melts everything with fairly little difficulty. Ground explosions are really the only thing that kill us, so all these on-death effects are the bane of my existence. Especially since the bloom on Gas Arrow cannot be controlled in the graphics settings. So sometimes you just kind of have to wait for the poison to clear before you dive in and start trying to loot everything. So just be careful with all that. Hopefully in the future, GGG will be kind enough to allow us to kind of turn some transparency on this gas so that we can actually see the game and play the game better. Single target is still the same. For single target, we are using Toxic Growth with our Despair Curse and Wither from Rain of Arrows. I thought about switching over to Dark Effigy for the Wither, but then you have to worry about keeping the totem alive or resummoning it. Whereas Rain of Arrows just kind of rains down on the target without having to worry about a second thing staying alive. So we have a druid here. Drop your curses. Drop your rain of arrows. He's gonna move like a bitch. And collect your loot. Bosses die fairly quickly. Even T16 bosses. We're super tanky, so you can just take a lot of hits from everything, which is really nice. Now we'll just go and mop up this T16, and then we'll go over kind of where we're at on the tree. I am level 89 right now, so we still have 11 passive points to spend, and I'll include a link to kind of the Theorycraft build guide that I made yesterday, so that we have that information as well, so you can kind of compare live with where we're at and what we're doing, and theory crafting with where we're planning on going with the build itself. Now, a lot of concerns from people have been, oh, how do we get the stats for all the int and all the decks? Not hard. Get stats on items. We have plenty of suffixes. There's tons of room for getting your gear right. So don't stress too much about that. Like all that stuff will come. Just get decent gear. I will take a moment to kind of emphasize that if you're struggling with any build in this game currently, it's because you don't have decent gear. Period. You cannot, in Path of Exile, one, you can outbuild your gear. You can have a passive tree that is so well done or so well thought out that even with mediocre gear, you can have a lot of success. That is not true in PoE 2. Gear is absolutely king here. So if at any point you're suffering, it is because you don't have good gear, and you need to go and make some updates to your gear. If you need damage, then you need a really good weapon. If you need defenses, then you need really good body armor. Helmet is also a really strong defensive piece. But, I mean, for the most part, if you have good body armor and good gear, you can get away with just about any build in the game. I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that I could complete the campaign on any character without ever putting a single point in the passive tree, just with gear. So focus on making sure your gear is right and that your gear is a good choice. And at some point in time here in the near future, I'll probably post a video on how to use Path of Exile trade better, because understanding how to search for things that are valuable is more important than just dumping currency into it. But I digress. We'll go over where we're at right now. So, as far as stats, I'm at 203 dex, 156 int. We could dip a little bit more into int to get some of our int skills a little bit higher, but this is fine for right now. Do plan on possibly adding blink in here as an option. I haven't decided. Grim Feast is probably going to come into the build. I think that would be a really good addition to our character. But let's look at our gear. First off, we have our bow. This is a 370 fizz damage top end bow with +5 to proj skills. It's a really good bow. I got this like day 3. I crafted this. I'm probably not going to be able to replace it anytime soon for anything short of an exorbitant amount of divines. So you want something that looks like this. Big fizz hit, projectile skills. Our helm, we just want as much energy shield as possible. I have max life on this as well, which is nice, and a little bit of resistances, which is nice. But I'm probably going to consider going CI later on in the game. And so your big focus on your helmet is just going to be as much energy shield as possible, because that gets doubled into evasion via our passive tree. Our amulet is just stats and energy shield and life and resistances. Nothing complex here. Our quiver is, you don't really have a choice. Fizz damage, damage with bow skills, proj skills, and dex. Whatever else is on there, it doesn't matter. But you do want a really good dex roll in here, because that's multiplied by our passive on the tree and helps to get all of our stat requirements done. Rings, you want fizz damage, resistances, and other useful things like leech. Same thing over here, fizz damage, resistances, and leech. Both of my rings have a lot of life on them because I'm running hybrid life and ES right now. In the future, again, I may switch that over to CI. We'll see how it goes. Body armor. I was using a pure evasion body armor, but the hybrid evasion ES body armor is so much more survivability. So get one with high evasion, high energy shield, good resistances. I got lucky. This one just dropped off the ground as is, and so it's been a very, very good piece of body armor. My gloves are utter garbage, which is what I have. I haven't bothered with replacing them yet. You do want fizz damage, you want resistances, and you want high evasion ES on them. Belt, you want armor and armor, and then other useful stats. I've got resistances on here and max life right now. In boots, you want move speed, evasion, and energy shield, as well as stats and resistances on them. These are really good boots. I got really lucky with these. And so that's where we're at as far as the gearing goes. As skills go, we are still running gas arrow with scatter shot, comorbidity, deadly poison, heft, and I'm running inspiration right now. These two nodes right here, I move around a lot based on what I need. And so like when I'm map clearing, sometimes I'll pull heft out and put persistence in here, because it gives me gas clouds that last longer and grow bigger with a very minimal change in the damage. You could put plus chaos skills over here if you needed more single target damage out of your gas arrow. Inspiration just makes it smoother for map clear, so I don't have to use mana flash sever. These two skill slots right here are very flexible, and if you don't have a 5-link or a 6-link, it's fine. This is all you need. Scattershot, comorbidity, deadly poison. Barrage, we're still running pre-med and ingenuity. This just allows me to dump out now 3 different sets of 3 gas arrows. So 9 gas arrows every time I barrage gas arrow. It allows me to dump poison stacks very, very rapidly on a target. I use it in a lot of situations. They're really good for ritual, because it allows you to put a very dense poison gas on the ground that stacks up everything instantly on everything spawning. I use a lot in Expedition. I use a lot in boss movement fights. I'm very happy with Barrage and Gas Arrow. I wish it worked with Toxic Growth, and I hope they change that in the future, because that would be a huge boost to our single target damage. But for now, it's just good for stacking poison with Gas Arrow. Rain of Arrows, still Withering Touch, Chaos Infusion, and Culling Strike. This allows us to apply Withering Touch with Chaos Infusion and Culling Strike to kill bosses and other mobs more quickly. Toxic Growth, I'm running Brutality, Life Tap, Martial Tempo, and Concentrated Effect. Life Tap does convert this over to a huge life cost, 287 life every time you cast it. but our fizz damage leech typically recovers most of that, and it gives us the alternative of using a life flask, which we're not using very much at all because we're energy shield based, or mana as opposed to just a mana flask, and our life flask obviously recovers much more life than our mana flask recovers. And so I think life tap is a really solid choice on toxic growth here. It gives us the ability to spam it without having to wait for a mana flask to tick up. Still running escape shot. I have nothing in here right now, apparently. We want to run glaciation in our ice shot, probably. I don't even have one. Doesn't matter. Ice shot, I never click. I just dodge roll. The freeze is not reliable, but you can run glaciation and chilling ground with it are both good choices with escape shot. Despair, running cursed ground, heightened cursed, magnified effect, and then I would do ritualistic curse if I 4-linked this for a larger area. Despair on the ground. I prefer ground despair as opposed to targeted despair because it allows me to curse multiple creatures at the same time. In a lot of situations like expedition, ritual, you can dump it on the ground, dump your poisons on the ground, and everything that comes in it dies and gets cursed. It's very, very good. And then versus bosses, movement can be an issue, but it's super fast to recast. It's very low mana cost, very easy to use. Ghost Dance, we are running Clarity and Fast Forward. Fast Forward allows you to have more Ghost Dance charges more frequently. And then I like the mana regeneration from Clarity. You can run whatever you want as your other support here. Wind Dancer, we are running Blind, Maim, and Energy Barrier. Energy Barrier is incredibly good whenever we get stunned. Wind Dancer is obviously up all the time, so Energy Barrier triggers anytime we get stunned. And we have a tremendous amount of recovery between Energy Barrier and Ghost Dance when we get hammered by a lot of targets. And then Blind and Maim knock things away, blind them and slow them so they have a harder time getting back to you. It's a very good little combination on Wind Dancer right there. For our passive tree, all of this will be in the max roll guide. But you can see we are energy shield evasion, energy shield evasion, energy shield evasion everywhere that we can get it. And then we're taking fizz damage, attack damage, fizz damage, proj damage, poison damage, poison damage, poison damage, poison damage, quiver stats. These two secondary nodes on the quiver stats, I don't know if they're actually valuable enough to take. It's 30% more of everything, but it's not enough to kick us up to +4 proj. I don't currently need an extra 10 dex and 2 points for an extra 13% bow skill damage and like 4 or 5 fizz damage. I don't think is worth it, but getting these 3 points are very important because they do get you to +3 proj instead of +2 proj. If you are using jewels that increase your quiver percentages, which are very, very expensive, you could see some value in those because then those would stack and get you to +4 proj instead of +3 proj. But I think just these 3 right here are good enough. Now for our jewels, we are running increased magnitude of poison you inflict and attack damage. You could also run increased magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict. And then if you're really lucky or you're really spendy, you can get one with increased magnitude of poison and increased magnitude of damaging ailments. So that would be ideal. But right now, I bought all these for 1x, and then I bought like 30 of them for 1x, and then I alt transmuted, regal slammed them until I got some reasonable ones to put in here. And they have been serving very, very well for the build. Other than that, no real changes on the build. Playstyle, like I said, is still all the same. If you have any questions over anything, please drop a comment down below or come by my Twitch channel. I'm happy to help out. As I said earlier in the video, gear on this build, bow, armor. I could probably wear this bow, this armor, remove everything else off of the character, down level my stats, and still do T15s. Like, this bow and this armor is so important to the build, so make sure you have your largest investment in these 2 slots right here. Other than that, thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.